Divided God. I'm just watching it vicariously through YouTube reviews. LOL. Yep. I'm having a much better time doing that than actually watching this show. I finally got around to watching it. I saw what it was about online and like, oh, I don't want to do it. John Yee, I am not watching, and thank goodness some of you are reviewing it. I tried to watch episode 5 for the lightsaber fight and it was painful. The dialogue, yes. The dialogue is so atrociously bad. There are things that they say that no one would say, no Jedi would say, and really no human being with real emotions would say. I remember even on episode 3, Jedi Trinity, I forget her name, Indara, she introduced her fellow Jedi Knights as colleagues. She says, these are my colleagues. And that just really stuck out to me. There's a lot of language like that that no one would use. It seems like corporate speak. Using inside voices, that was another one. Yeah, in episode 5, during the lightsaber confrontations, Sol said, civilian to the ship, basically ordering Yord to take Osha to the ship. But why don't you just say, Yord, get Osha out of here, it's not safe. He just shouted out, civilian to the ship. And what does Yord say in response? Civilian to the ship. He just repeats it. No person would say that. They would just say, come on, Osha, we gotta get out of here, or something like that. You heard Sol, let's get out of here. Gotta get you somewhere safe. It's so stupid. It's so atrociously bad. I can't speak enough about how bad the writing is. But apparently, we're all terrible. It's our fault that the writing is so bad because we're pointing it out, I guess. That's what the media is trying to claim, that we are responsible for a toxic atmosphere simply because we're saying that this is bad writing. This is mediocre at best. See, the reason why we do this is because we talk about what we like and we talk about what we don't like. They just throw in random things. Like, they have random rules that that I've never heard about. I've never heard a Jedi say. The Jedi don't attack the unarmed. It was such a weird part for the Jedi soul to say after he just freshly murdered all of his Jedi companions. And then when he finally had the upper hand, Darth Smilo Ren said, oh, Jedi don't attack the unarmed. You literally have the Force. You are not unarmed. Any Dark Force user is not unarmed when the Force is with them. And literally, he killed Yord without using the Force. He is a psychopath who would easily have killed the rest of you. So it would have been in self-defense to dispatch of him then. But because he didn't happen to have a lightsaber in his hand, he was unarmed. It's so weird, and it doesn't make sense. They just throw out things haphazardly when it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in the situation when it comes to the story, and it doesn't fit like within the broader Star Wars universe. Because then you have to think about all the other Jedi or all the other situations where Jedi were in confrontations with various antagonists. And they just happen to have not a lightsaber in their hand, but they're like, oh, you can't take out your lightsaber unless you intend to kill, or you can't defend yourself if I happen to be unarmed at this moment. It feels like a lot of dialogue is done by committee or ChatGPT. Again, it's like, yes, theater dialogue. And it's so clunky and so robotic. It doesn't feel organic. I remember in episode 4, the previous episode where they were trying to track down the Jedi Wookiee, I remember Yord saying, I swear we need a tracker just to track our tracker. That was an actual line that he said. I can't help but be interested, and it's like a car crash. You can't turn away. I just view it purely as, it's hard to even say the word fan fiction because the people who are producing it aren't fans. They really don't know anything about the fundamental aspects of this mythology of Star Wars. So it's hard for them to even be described as fans, for them to even make this fan fiction. And especially with this last episode, it felt like a Harlequin romance novel with a Star Wars skin. This literally felt like just so much insertion from the showrunner Leslie Headland and just her weird concepts that she's trying to force into Star Wars. Like she's trying to twist it to her certain worldview. And you can see that. You see, it doesn't feel like Star Wars in any sense, in any aspect. It's just a veneer of Star Wars. We have Jedi and we have a Sith, but none of these feel like how Jedi should be acting, how Sith would act. A weird bastardization and some fiction, I guess. Bastardization fiction. That should be its own category. Cut off his hands like Anakin did, then he's unarmed. To be fair, Star Wars dialogue has always been cheesy. Cheesy is a different category. Yeah, cheesy, okay. But this is like dialogue that just feels like it does not belong in this space opera setting. Like I was saying before with the Jedi Trinity, to introduce her fellow knights as colleagues, it's a modern speech thing. Yeah, how we would introduce ourselves. Yeah, these are my colleagues. We would say that, but it just felt so weird for a Jedi to refer to the others in such a fashion with such like corporate speech. It feels very sanitized and it just takes you out of it. And yeah, I feel like cheesiness can be good. It has like a certain charm to it. There's some dialogue that just takes you out of it. It's just like, no, this is not what someone would say. It's what I possibly would say, I guess, in every situation. In this newest one, yeah, episode 6, Teach/Corrupt, I think is the name of this episode. The soul says, Osha, take the wheel. I don't know. It's just not something you'd picture someone saying in this setting. There's so much about this that is such a bastardization of George Lucas's most basic fundamental concepts. Even then, you can't even defend it for being, oh, at least it's entertaining. It's not even that. It's just so poorly produced. I honestly don't know how they got this show. $180 million. I think at ObiWan Kenobi, they just gave, what is it, $90 million for the ObiWan Kenobi series, which people were much more interested in. And honestly, I'm not even seeing the budget right now, even with, we're in episode 6 right now, and I don't know where this money is going. The writing was never Shakespeare, but it was what it needed to be. It was charming. Space operas like this has a certain charm, has a certain campiness to it, but it's always supposed to like keep you immersed. I think that was the key, that there was dialogue that yes was cheesy, but you're still in it. The yes, Anakin doesn't like sand, but you're still in the moment. You're still in Naboo, you're still in this epic story. But when you hear terms that you wouldn't hear, it would just be this modern setting. It just takes you right out of it. They really have to think about those things, and they're just not thinking about it from a nerd's perspective. It's unfortunate because I think a lot of people are interested in a premise like this, like focusing on the Jedi and Sith's perspectives. I think people really were intrigued by the premise of that. At this point, I wasn't really into it because with the track record that Disney has had so far in regards to their live action shows, I wasn't expecting much, but I know people were interested in a show like that, that would examine things more from both sides of a conflict. That can be very interesting, and there have been very popular stories that have done that before in the previous EU. I mean, you have Asajj Ventress. I think I saw her first in the 2D Clone Wars show, which is my favorite and is my personal headcanon. She was awesome. And her dynamic with Count Dooku was really cool. It was a very good story from that perspective. And you saw like a bunch of cool stories too. But Anakin, him actually going through the trials, becoming a Jedi Knight. Great stories. And of course, in Legends material, you also have like the Darth Bane trilogy. There's the origin of the Rule of Two. There's some fascinating stories, specifically from the point of view of the Sith. It's always been a fascination with the fandom, but the way they're doing it is just so like half-heartedly. It's so without an understanding of the Force, of the light and dark side. There's just lore and mythology that they don't understand. And it is clear that they don't understand, that they don't even care to understand it. They maybe know a few things. Leslie Headland probably knows a few things, a few lines about the Force from whatever films, but it's twisted to her own point of view. Clearly, the theme of this show was that there is no good and evil. It just depends on what side you're on. And it just does not work with this universe. This is a space opera built upon the epic clash of good versus evil. It is traditional. I mean, it's a classic tale, but there's a reason why it's so popular. People love that. They love rooting for the good guys, and they love cheering for when the villains are vanquished. And then, of course, there's nuance in every individual character. Heroes that or protagonists that may stumble and make mistakes, but that's the point of the hero's journey, is to overcome all that and to rise above, to face these challenges, overcome these, take some licks, take some hits. At the end of the day, come together to defeat evil. It's simple, but it's so profound at the same time. And this show, it just feels like nothing. It doesn't, like, I get what they're trying to say, but it doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate with audiences. You're not connecting in that way. Like with Osha, are we supposed to root for this person? The good twin? and I say good because they say it's no good and evil. So the twins themselves, there isn't even a good and evil twin. She plays them exactly the same. Amandla Stenberg plays these two characters exactly the same. And you would think that on the dark side of the Force with May, she would be consumed with hatred and anger. She exhibits none of those emotions, and it's supposed to be telltale signs of the dark side. You get none of that. And with Osha, there's really nothing to root for in this regard, especially in this last episode, if you're keeping up with the show so far. At the end of episode 5, the twins basically parent trap their prospective masters. Well, May does. May haphazardly and very dangerously cuts off her hair to look like her sister, to pretend to be her, and then she joins up with Sol. And meanwhile, Smilo Ren takes Osha, so they switch. Osha wakes up and she just slowly and in the most boring way possible gets up and starts to like wander around the beach, and she finds Smilo Ren bathing. You get no emotion from her towards him in regards to the fact that he just freshly murdered all of her friends, all of those innocent people she watched get murdered in a very violent fashion. No inclination that she's upset at this dude. So I feel like I can't connect with someone who doesn't feel anything about all of her fallen comrades. Like, she grew up with Yord in the academy. Like, she knew him since they were kids, and she feels nothing about the fact that he died in such a violent way by this dude's hand, by Smilo Ren's hand. But I don't know, she just forgot all of that because he's bathing and he's hot. I can't get behind a protagonist who doesn't feel anything. No one would feel nothing in that situation. If you were in that situation, you would be wanting to get out of there. Like, she saw him, so she started to follow him. But immediately you would want to leave, I guess, unless you plan to confront the dude that just murdered a dozen knights and masters. So she probably didn't stand a chance. But she's not doing that. Her first order of business is just follow him. And because he's hot, I don't know, she just forgot the fact that he murdered everybody. And only like maybe 20 minutes in does she remind him of that. And even then, it just feels so hollow. I just don't believe you. I don't believe that you had any concern for Jeki and for Yord. You're just now bringing it up. Like, you should have been angrily accusing him from the very beginning. Yeah, it really rang hollow. And again, this is the person we're supposed to be rooting for. And then also from May's perspective. From May's perspective, okay, we cut over to May and Sol. Sol is just so down on himself. He is so morose. And he cannot sense that May is there. He can't tell the difference. And I don't know if he's just so overcome by emotion that he can't sense it. Like, this is someone that was your Padawan. You knew her since she was little. You cannot tell the difference. It's such a scathing rebuke and such a dismantling of this character that people actually liked. There were some people that was the few characters that they really rooted for or liked. The actors from Squid Game, he's a very good actor. I don't think this show is worthy of his talent, but he's doing his best. He's acting. He's pulling his weight, more than I can say for Amanda Stenberg, who just has one emotion, and she plays these two twins exactly the same. But even still, you had a character that some people had some connection with, that they rooted for, and you are making him, like with each subsequent episode, you are tearing him down and just dismantling him in a way that we can't root for him. The fact that he's portrayed as so weak, so stupid, for lack of a better word, because he can't sense her. He can't sense it because he's so overwhelmed by emotions. That's not good either. He should be in some command of his emotions. It's a horrible thing that just happened, but the fact that it could be blinding you to danger. With May, they keep flip-flopping about what her character motivations are on a dime. There is no consistency. So let's see, she wanted to go with Sol initially so she could prove to her sister Osha the truth about the Jedi. She's gonna make her see. I have no idea how she intended to do that with Osha on the planet, but then she immediately tries to kill Sol. Like, she had a dagger in her hand, and I think that's when he said, take the wheel. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess I won't kill you. She just changes her mind. We have no sense of connection to any characters because if you keep changing their motivation, because the writers don't know. They don't know what to do with them. And I can tell that this was just haphazardly thrown together. I don't feel any passion. I don't feel any, not even passion for the mythology of Star Wars, but just in order to create a good show. It is poorly produced, poorly written, and the writers clearly do not know what they want to do with this. This whole season so far, we maybe had like a couple of like actions sequences, but it's mostly just a slog to get through. It is so slowly paced and boring. It is so boring. I don't know, this seems like such a selfish, self-serving project is what Star Wars has turned into. It's like no one cares about living up to Star Wars mythology and George Lucas. It's mostly just what they want Star Wars to be. That's definitely what it feels like. and with the actors too in this. The actor who plays Soul, the actor who plays Smilo Ren, they're good actors. They're definitely pulling their weight, but they are diminished. They're just limited to the quality of the writing, which is very mediocre. And I'm being very kind when I say it's just mediocre. At best, it's mediocre.